This video is going to help you to move from a block-based program like Scratch to a text-based program. I've used JavaScript in this case. Now the challenge is that you go to the movies and they ask you how old you are, and if you're 15 or over you can watch M-rated movies. If you're under 15 you can only watch G-rated movies. And so the intention here is that you lay out all the logic and everything in Scratch, and then you open up a text-based program and replicate what you've done in Scratch. Let's get to it. Okay, so in Scratch we've got a new file here, and we're going to just replace the sprite. I'll pick AZ Hip Hop, click OK. I'm going to delete this sprite by clicking on it, then right click, delete, and this is very large, so I'm going to go to the shrink arrows, shrink him down, and I'm going to choose a backdrop. Pick stage. Now we're going to click back on the sprite and choose scripts. Now we're ready to start. What we're going to do is we're going to do a simple Boolean choice. If you're 15 or over, you can watch G and M rated movies. If you're under 15, you can only watch G rated movies. So go into the looks and grab the say block. We're just going to say here, welcome to the movie theatre. And we can just click on that to make sure that works. Okay, and then we're going to get into ask the question, how old are you? So we're going to sensing and ask, how old are you? Once it's checked that that works. Great. And what we're also going to do is, instead of me clicking on this to start it, I'm just going to go to events, and we're going to set up an event handler that when the green flag is clicked, it will start the sequence, play this one, then this one. So let's check that that works. Great. Now this puts up a prompt box, and the idea is that your user input is stored as a variable, and then that variable, whatever your answer is compared to a value of 15, and if your answer is less than 15, then you'll get a certain result, and if your answer is above 15 or above, you'll get another result. So let's have a look at this a bit more. Go into control and grab the if then else. Okay, so we're basically going to set up that if you're less than 15, then you can only watch G-rated movies, and if you're older than 15, you can watch G and M-rated movies. So to start this block, we need something that we call a Boolean, which essentially gives it's a true or false. It either is or it isn't. So if we go into operators, and I'll grab this one. And so the code is going to be that if your response is less than 15, so if that's true, then this will happen. If that is false, then this block of code will run. So where does Scratch keep your user response? If I say I am 8, where does it go? So the answer is that Scratch already does store it for you. Whereas when we go to the JavaScript, you'll see you have to create a place to store it. So the answer here, or answer, just underneath, you can tick it to see up in the top left what the answer actually is, and see how it's number 8. So we can use that variable, and we call it variable because we can change it. So if the user answer is less than 15, so if that is true, then this block of code will run. So we're going to say you're less than 15, you can only watch G-rated movies. So let's see if this works. I'll keep this up here for now so we can see the result. So first block, second block. So this is like a prompt box. We can put in 10 this time. So when I click on this, we'll see 10 up here, and that Boolean statement is true, so this block of code ran. However, if I go higher than 15, 16, that variable has changed from 10 to now 16, and this block of code has run, but there's nothing in there. So let's put something in there. You are allowed to watch G and M rated movies. So let's try it again. So older than 15. So that works. And now that we know it works, we can untick this. Now technically there could be a bug, because for this to be true, I only have to put a number that's less than 15. But what happens if we type in the number 12? Okay, so what happened here is that Scratch recognizes a number differently to it recognizes a string of text. And to set this up properly is going to delve a lot deeper than I want to for this video. So for now, we're just going to say that this is acceptable. We're just going to put in the right answers that will get the result we want. But if we were to build this properly, we would put another condition to remove any other options. So that's our Scratch side done. So let's just revise. So first thing was an event handler, so that when the green flag is clicked, it will run the program. And at this stage, when the green flag is clicked, we say welcome to the movie theater. And then we ask, how old are you? But in a prompt box. So the difference here, if instead of putting another purple block, which is just a string of text, by putting in this sensing block, putting in a prompt, we're setting up so that the user's input is what we're after. This here. So when the user types in, this answer is compared to 15. If it's less than 15, if that statement is true, if that Boolean statement is true, this block of code runs. If the Boolean statement is false, this block of code runs. So now we're going to do exactly the same thing in JavaScript. It won't be as pretty, it will be very black and white and just text, but it will help you to understand how JavaScript works, but it follows the same logical steps. So let's get to it. My favorite way is to go to W3 Schools and just open up this do-it-yourself block, and anything you type over here will get a result over here. So if you're not too familiar with HTML, we've got a head section and we've got a body section. At the moment we've got 2 lines of code. This is that one and this is that one. But we're going to delete both of those and hit run. So we essentially have a blank canvas and we're just going to work in this section here. Now the first thing I'm going to set up is a title. So I'm going to put in the word movies. Now I could run this, but I'm going to do it properly. We'll put the tags around here. So start with H2 size. And this formats it very much like a Word document. How you can bold and underline. That's a simple way to explain what's happening there. Then we're going to want a button. So we go open button, close button. So if I run it now, we'll see a little, but we can't really tell that that's a button, so we're going to say click here. So at the moment, we haven't set any code to actually do anything with this button, it's a button. Okay, and the last one is we're going to set up a paragraph element and close that paragraph element. And this is where the answer is going to be. So if we go back to our Scratch, I'll move this over here, where this answer here is going to go into this space here. So this is where the answer will go. So we have to set up this element here to give a space for where the answer goes. So I'll just leave that there for now and I'll change it a bit later. Okay, so that's our HTML part, and now we're going to start the JavaScript. So we start it by putting in a script tag, open and close, and I'm going to run the script after the elements have run, because if you run the script up here before the elements run, sometimes it doesn't grab the elements. Your instructions in the script will say grab the paragraph element, but you're grabbing it before it's actually loaded. So by going this way, it loads all these elements up, and then we can run our script to manipulate the elements. So the very first thing we're going to do is just a simple alert. This just helps us to know that things are working. So if we go alert, I just have to put in test. Okay, so that works. So what we're seeing here is that this script is running very quickly. As soon as we click run, it's putting all these there and running very quickly. What we want to do is delay the running of the script until we want it to run. We want it to only run when you click on the button. So there's two things we need to do. Similar to how here, when the green flag clicked, it only runs when you click on the green flag. We're essentially doing that here. So the button element needs an attribute that says onClick equals 2 quotes, and it's going to find a function. This function we're going to call how old with 2 brackets afterwards. Now the link is going to be in here. Function called how old with 2 quotes, an opening bracket, and run that after the block of code, closing bracket. So in the past, when we ran it, this alert ran straight away. What we're hoping is that this time we have delayed that script from running until we click on the button. So we assigned an OnClick function that when the button, on clicking the button, run this function called how old. And what is inside the function is an alert. Let's try. Run. It's not running, which is a good sign, and click here. Now, you would do this day in, day out with JavaScript, so that's this is a very good way just to start, just to get a result that you're running a script, but at your pace, not when the page is reloading, but when you click on the button. Instead of onClick, we could do OnMouseOver. Run, and when you hover the mouse, instead of clicking, as soon as you just hover over it. So there'll be times when you would prefer to use that. I'm going to go back to onClick for now. Yeah, so in Scratch, we had this box that was a prompt. So instead of alert, I'm going to put in prompt Welcome to the movie theatre. How old are you? Run the program. The script isn't running until we click on this. Welcome to the, and it's put in a prompt box which looks very much like what we had here. So essentially, all that code has done the same as these three blocks. And as we posed before, when you type something into here, you could see where the variable went. So we need to create a place to store this variable. So how we do that is we go into our script area and we declare a variable, and we're going to call it answer to be the same as what we did in Scratch, and assign it to the prompt, which is a shortcut way of saying whatever the user types into the prompt box, that will create a stored variable exactly like this. And then we can start to compare it to 15 to get the result. So at the moment, if we run it, we get the prompt box, but we can't see that we've stored the variable. So how I'm going to prove that we've stored the variable is I'm going to change this to the value of this. So if this is our P element, this is its inner HTML, I'm going to change the inner HTML of the P element to the value of this variable called answer. And so how we do that is we go document, which essentially says start from the very beginning of all the framework of JavaScript, and get an element by ID. Now we haven't put an ID in here. We want to put in an identifier. I'm going to put it into here. ID equals user input. So find the element with the ID of user input. Now I made a typing mistake there, so I'm going to do it like this. Copy that from there so that it's exactly matches. Get this element, which is going to be this one, because this element here has no ID called user input. This element here, button, has no ID called user input, but this element here, paragraph, does have an ID called user input. So get that element and change its inner HTML to you are plus answer, and years of age. So what this is a string of text, and what we've set up is that whatever the person types in here will go into here. If I just put 50, I could just put 15. Let's start with that. I'll show you how this all works. So we're running the program. We're clicking on the button to run the function called how old, and that function first of all displays a prompt. Now I'm going to put in 15, and it then puts in this text, you are 15 years of age. So on the face of it, that looks like it's worked properly, but it's not true. If we run it again, or if I click on the button, if I put in 16, it's still going to say you are 15 years of age. So this is the whole point of variables, is that you want to be able to vary the answer. So instead of putting in a fixed number, I'm just going to put in whatever the value is that the user types in. So by putting in the name of the variable, you are variable years of age. So 15 will work. I could put in 130. So that's the whole point of putting in a variable. And it's very intuitive in Scratch how you would do that. Okay, so that's all well and good, but what we haven't done is the Boolean part. We at least know that our program works, and now we can start finessing it a bit. So we're happy for that first line. That can stay. What we're going to do here is we're going to, I'll just do it as a comment for now, but we're essentially want to set up that if the answer is, let's say, less than or equal to 15, then still find this element, but change its inner HTML from that text that we have there to a string of text that says you can only watch G-rated movies. Okay, so that's what we want to do. We haven't done it properly yet, but we're just doing what I call Pseudocode. Okay, so else, we'll do 2 more brackets, and the condition here we need to put in that semicolon on the end to let it know it's finished. So if you're older than 15, then you can watch G and M-rated movies. So we start our if statement. We put brackets around this part, and we have an opening bracket here which closes off there, and we have an opening bracket here which closes off there. And we started this whole function with an opening bracket, so we need to close off one more time. So what I'll do to make this a bit more clearer, I'll just indent these a bit so we can see this opening bracket, closing bracket, this opening bracket, that to there. Okay, so this is our Boolean, exactly what we had here. If this part is true, then run this. So if this part is true, then run this block of code. If it's not true, if else, then run this block of code. How old are you? 12. You can only watch G-rated movies. If we're 130 and we're still going to the movies, we can watch G and M-rated movies. Okay, I will close this video off now. So my hope is that you were able to see that by setting it up in Scratch first, it's very easy to get the logic and the layout and get the quick result because there's no typos. It's just drag and drop and you get the result. Then you try and do the same thing in JavaScript and you'll start to see that all programs follow the same logic and sequence. There's just a few nuances within each program. So I'm going to set you a challenge now. If you're over 18, you can watch G, M, and R-rated movies. So do it in Scratch first, get that working so that you can type in 19 or anything over 18 and you'll get a third result. And then once you have that working here, go into here and make this work. And so then this gives you an active program to get the result. Last thing I will say is I'm just going to turn this actually into an application to put on my desktop. So once I have it working in our W3 schools. I know it works. I copy that and I open up Text Wrangler on Mac or Notepad on Windows. So Notepad or Text Wrangler, and we save as, this is the key, is it might have .txt by default, so you want .html as your extension, and then whatever you're going to call it. So I'll call it theatre.html. And so now I have this, and it's actually a web application. Okay, thanks for watching.